We are continuing today in Meretz Hashem. We have the great schus to begin Perek Yud in Mesillas Yesharim, the 10th chapter. Today is Friday, the 10th of Cheshvan, November 4th. And the Ramchal writes as follows. Title of this chapter is Beveir HaNekios, an explanation or a definition of the midah of Nekios. We literally translate Nekios as cleanliness, but we'll see in fact that it means so much more. Midas HaNekios, Heyosa Adam Naki Legamri Mikol Midah Ra Mikol Chet. So what's the midah of Nekios? The midah of Nekios, of cleanliness, obviously we're not talking about a physical trait, but rather a spiritual one. And it is that a person is totally cleansed of every negative character trait and every sin. Now it's interesting, in the footnotes in the Biurim on the Mesillas Yesharim, he writes over here that it doesn't mean that a person never sins. It's impossible that a person doesn't sin. But rather, again, what it means is that a person has cleansed themselves of the negative character traits and the negative details of their persona that often create sin. That's what it means, Nikias. So we'll further clarify. Lo dai mima shachet bo meforsa megaloy, elagam mima shalev nifte bo lohoros heter bedavar. It's not simple, it's not enough just to go ahead and purge oneself of the obvious negative sinful character traits and behaviors. Rather, again, a person also has to purge and cleanse themselves of the, we'll call it the behaviors or the intellectual or spiritual or emotional dispositions that allow me to justify negative behavior. Shekasher nachkar alav be'emes nimtza shelo haya hetero niralo, ela mipnei hayos haliv adayin agua ktsas min hatayva, kilo tar mimenu mikol v'kol, akentim shechehu lahakilo. So this is actually an incredibly profound idea. So the Ramchal writes as follows. Generally, most of us don't just sin straight out. Instead, what do? We're mora heter. We convince ourselves that what we're doing is in fact not so bad. What we're doing in fact is not so terrible. And therefore, again, I could justify my behaviors. Now, why is it that I could justify something that is objectively negative? And the reason for that, says Ramchal, is because literally, again, there are negative things, negative character traits, negative behaviors, negative aspects which have settled upon my soul, settled upon my heart, settled upon my mind. So because that negativity is there, that negativity is what allows me to go ahead and justify negative behavior. But a person who cleanses himself, literally cleanses himself from the nega, from the affliction of flawed ideas, desires, wants, and lusts, a person who purges himself of all of those things, so this is really an incredible idea. Remember, that I'm going to sin, that's obvious. I'm always going to make mistakes. What we're driving at over here is, sometimes if I make a mistake and I understand what I did and I own it and I grow from it, okay. The concern sometimes is in a situation where a person makes a mistake and justifies the mistake. The problem with justifying the mistake is that I'm never able to really rebound from it, grow from it, or fix it. Instead, I'm just stuck in this cycle. The midah of Nekios is where I identify the taiva, the desires, the wants, the negative proclivities, the negative character traits, and I try to get rid of them. I'm still going to sin, but at least I'll have the clarity of mind to understand what I've done wrong. And if I understand what I've done wrong, then I have a chance to truly fix it. So the Gemara gives an expression like this. The Gemara was talking about a certain group of people, called them the Nikiyeh Hadas, literally the clean minds, Nikiyeh Hadas. So what does it mean? That a person doesn't think inappropriate or illicit things? It's kind of obvious. Obvious that I should strive to avoid that, not obvious that I do it. But the idea being the Nikiyeh Hadas refers to these people who are able to identify the negative character traits, the negative behaviors which reside within, and find a way to purge myself of them. Now you can see the difference between zihirus and nikios. Even though they're very similar. So remember again, what's zihirus? Zihirus means I live with attentiveness, mindfulness, awareness, and this way, again, when something comes up that I shouldn't be doing, I'm thinking about my actions before I perform them, and I could avoid negative actions. Amnam, adayin einenu adun, ba'atzmo shlo yimoshech libo min hatayva ativis. Shelo tateu laharos lo heterem be'ezed dvarim shein rasmin for some. The problem is, even with Zehirus, now Zehirus is an incredible first step. Right? Zehirus says, I think before I act, I contemplate, I'm mindful. The issue is, when I'm still in the state of Zehirus, there still are these taivas, these desires, these wants, these lusts, proclivities. There still are these negative traits which allow me to justify negative behavior. V'zeh, ki afa pishu mishtadal lichbos es yisrael v'lichbos es tavosav, lo mipnei zeh yishana es tivo, v'lo yuchal hasim liba tava gufanis, el yichbash osa, v'yelech achar chachma v'lo achara. Al kopanim, so here's what's amazing. As much as Zehirus is so incredibly important because it forces me to think and to contemplate, and because of that, I'll actually be able to avoid a lot of errors. Because so many mistakes that I make in life, I really do make because I'm not thinking, because I'm not contemplating, I'm just acting. The issue just is that the negative character traits, like I said before, the taiva, the desires, the negativity, is still inside of me, and that's dangerous because that negativity inside of me allows me to justify certain negative and erroneous behavior. And if I could justify it, then it's not caught by Zehirus. If I could justify it, then it kind of gets through the Zehirus filter, and I'm able to engage in objectively negative behavior because I've convinced myself that it's actually okay. Amnam, achar she'israga la'adam hergel gadol b'Zehirus hazeh. For some, the So now, after I go through the initial steps of Zehirus and Zerizos, so remember again, in Zehirus, I'm thinking before I act. I'm mindful. I'm aware. In Zerizos, I'm taking advantage of my opportunities. And when I start something, I'm finishing it up quickly. After I have those two steps, then I have to graduate. Then I have the ability, to graduate up to the next level. Hine koach hahergel hazeh yarchik oso minyonei hachomer, v'yad bigdaito al hashlimos hanafshi, ad shesof sof yuchal lahagia al hanikayon hashalim. So now that I have Zehirus, and afterwards that I have Zerizos, now I'm able to graduate to the next level. And what's the next level? Shekvar yichbe eish hataiva hagufis milibo biskar b'bo hachem delokis. The next step is to go ahead and extinguish the fire of physical, material desire from my heart and extinguishing it with a profound love of Hashem. Now again, what does this mean? He doesn't mean that we're trying to go ahead and move away from anything material. Remember again, the goal of Nikios is to identify the negativity which resides within and purge it. But in order to do that, I first have to be a mindful, contemplative person. In order to do that, I first have to be the kind of person who's Rizos, who runs after his opportunities. Now, after I have that, now I'm ready to really get to work with the things that are misfiring inside of me. Now I'm ready to identify, okay, what are the things that internally are derailing me? What are the things that internally are causing me to justify negative or erroneous behavior? Va'az, see, the beautiful part is when I'm successful in the midah of Nikios, and I identify what's wrong, what's broken, what's negative, and I could clean that out. I could expunge it from within myself. Then I'm able to have proper vision for life. Because I'm able to look within myself and I'm able to rid myself of that negativity within, then I stop justifying erroneous and negative behaviors. And the moment I'm able to stop justifying negative and erroneous behaviors, I'm still going to sin, I'm still going to make mistakes, but at least I'm acutely aware of everything that's going wrong. And if I'm aware, then I could fix it. We'll stop over here for today. Wishing everyone a wonderful day and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh.